So we just went over and talked about what are the three different ways that we lose fluid. Now we're going to go into what does hydrated look like versus dehydrated. This is a great visual that I like to use with a lot of my athletes just to get across, you know, how a hydrated muscle looks like versus a dehydrated muscle, right? So one thing I do is you can see on the two top pictures here, right? If you look on the left-hand side, right? This is what I would consider a hydrated muscle. Okay, so if you look at a filet mignon or a juicy steak, right? This muscle has fluid in it, which makes it juicy. Okay. Or if I physically were to pick this piece of meat up, or I also do a sponge activity, right? Where I have an athlete dip the sponge into the water, right? Have them move the sponge around and give me some characteristics about what does the sponge feel like, right? And typically I get, oh, it's flexible, it's easy to move, right? Probably less often to get injured. Because if you think about if our muscles don't have the fluids and nutrients that they need, right, your risk for soft tissue injury is possibly going to go up. So all those nicks, those pulls, those strains, right? I'm not going to say hydration, being 100% hydrated every single time is going to totally alleviate and stop that from happening. But the better position you put yourself in with doing those certain behaviors, the less of a risk that you're going to run from that standpoint. Now, if you go over to the other picture on the right hand side, right? Everybody knows what this is. This is beef jerky. So what I'll do is, if the athlete dunks the sponge in the water, is able to move it, right? We're able to figure out like that's a hydrated muscle. Our muscle is going to move a lot better in all those really awkward, weird positions that we put it in, depending on the sport that we play. But then we also then have a sponge that's not dunked in the water, right? And if you, in that case, if you try to move a hard sponge that's been sitting in the sun all day, it's super dried out, right? It's dry, it's hard. I can't really move it. In some cases, I've had guys do the sponge activity, and then all of a sudden, while they're moving the sponge, like the sponge tears on them, right? Which kind of gives you, again, that real life realization. If the muscle is dehydrated, now I can't move it into those different positions that we want to on the court or the field because it doesn't have that elasticity, that um, uh, elasticity or that flexibility or that ability to move and stretch because it doesn't have the necessary nutrients or in this case fluid to allow it to be able to do so. So then, if you have a muscle that looks like jerky, in that sense, you're at a higher risk for a lot of those soft tissue injuries, which again, if you look at things like hamstring injuries, calf injuries, once you pull a hamstring, the chance of pulling that hamstring again that year or during that season, it's probably going to elevate. And it's like any other injury, right? If you twist your ankle, right, you're probably going to be at a higher risk, not only for your future sports career for twisting your ankle again, but if you don't do the proper things to recover it from a nutrition standpoint or through your rehab or sports medicine or physical therapy and have the right return to play, right, to make sure it is strong enough to be able to withstand the stress that's going to get put through in sports play, then again, the risk is, a lot of times could double, triple, quadruple, depending on the injury or depending on the situation or the athlete. The other visual I like to use, right now, we just talked about the muscle. What does the muscle look like, hydrated, dehydrated? Now, thinking about it from a blood standpoint, right? If our blood is hydrated, think about a waterfall. Waterfall is coming up and over, and it's moving really fast down towards the bottom where the water is falling into, right? Very quickly. Okay. If we're hydrated, right? The oxygen, the nutrients that are going to the muscle, to our organs, to our brain are moving very quickly. So we're exchanging those nutrients into the muscle. And then anything the muscle or the brain, the organs want to get away from it, it's able to then exchange and get that out of the body, okay, as quick as we can, right? If you think about the picture on the right hand side, again, this is not 100% correct, right? But I always just joke with the athletes. I'm like, you don't want to have honey blood, right? We don't want to have blood that's not hydrated, where we can't then exchange the nutrients in and out of the muscles and the cells as quick as we want to, because that's going to delay recovery. That's going to make us feel more tired and fatigued because now the nutrients aren't getting there as quick as we want them to. And then we're not getting rid of all that byproduct that our body is building up that's trying to get out of there. So now it's going to start to slow us down, make us feel more fatigued, make us feel more tired, right? And that ends up leading to a situation where maybe we're making more mental mistakes, physical mistakes. We don't feel as quick, right? We're not able to focus and concentrate on the task that's at hand in front of us. And again, you think about what we just talked about, that's just talking about getting enough fluids in throughout the day. We haven't talked about sleep, right? We've talked about a lot what the nutrients do for your body, why they're important, examples, but you can quickly see that the three bigs, the hydration, the sleeping, and the eating, have a tremendous effect on how you're going to feel, how you're going to perform, the outcome of that performance on a daily basis. So the more consistent you are with your routine, your schedule, and what you do day in and day out is going to determine to a pretty good extent what the results are going to be on game day, or what the results are going to be when you go into the weight room or when you're practicing. All those things are going to have an effect on that.